The year's not even half over, and I think I found my favorite shoe of the year. The Nike Infinity Run React Flyknit. It's a mouthful, but it's a great shoe. That is the Nike React Infinity Run Flyknit. It's a mouthful, but it is a good shoe. I've taken these on a variety of runs, a variety of distances of runs, but all those runs are focused at my slower recovery paces, and more recently have found them beneficial to my slower aerobic base training, where I try and maintain a slower pace to keep my heart rate at a target zone 2 for me, which would be about 145 to 150 beats per minute. And I find these shoes really work well for that because they're just not designed to go fast. Nike on their site markets these as shoes designed to help reduce injury and keep you on the run. More foam and improved upper details provide a secure and cushioned feel. Lace up and feel the potential as you hit the road. So a few key words there. More foam. You definitely have more foam at the bottom. Down here you have React foam at the as the name of the shoe implies, React foam on your shoe itself. And on top of that, the improved upper details provide a secure and cushioned feel. So upper, you do have the Flyknit material, which is just a material I really liked on Nike shoes. It was featured on the Vaporfly 4%, as well as the Nike Zoom Fly, as well as a few other versions of the React shoes that they've come out in the past. But with these, they stay very breathable. They're fairly thin. It's a fairly thin material, which I'll get to that a bit later. You get some thinness on the side of your ankle there, but because of that thinness, you get some nice breathability to it. I've ran in some puddles in these shoes too, and the good thing about that being nice and thin, it allows the shoe to does absorb the water quickly, but it also dries up quickly as well, which is a nice plus. Breathability being thin is a plus. It works well for that. But one thing I did note is because you do have the added foam rubber on the bottom, the shoe does feel a bit heavy to run in, especially when you compare it to other shoes like the Zoom Fly lineup. Especially the Zoom Fly 2, which is a lot lighter compared to the Zoom Fly 3. But focusing more on this shoe, the one thing to note is at the bottom of the shoe, not only do you have more foam cushioning all throughout the shoe to help give you a cushioned landing when you do run, you do have this wider flare of the bottom of the shoe. So let me put it this way. As you can see, the end of the shoe, your foot kind of wraps around the liner here, and you have this bit of the React foam which extends out. What that does as you're running, it gives you some stability. So if you kind of land on your side, that added support gives you some stability as you're running back and forth. So if you pronate or overpronate, underpronate, I think it kind of works in favor for that, as it gives you a bit more stability as you do land. Adding to the stability front, you have this plastic clip that goes all around the shoe. This itself, when I was running, it does give me a feel of added security to the fit and some stability as I do run. One thing I do know, Nike is known for shoes that run pretty narrow, and while this shoe does have a wider foam at the bottom, one thing I did notice as I was running is that this piece of plastic on the side here, I do feel it on the arc of my foot sometimes, and I'm kind of flat-footed. So as I'm running, it took me a few miles to get used to it, but that almost felt like it was almost in the way of my foot, but it wasn't quite there. It didn't quite bother me as much, but if you do need a shoe that wants wider, or a shoe that needs wider arch support for your foot because you have a wider foot, you might feel that the plastic clip there does get in the way. One thing that I've seen people complain about online is the thinness of the, I guess, where you put your foot in. This part of the shoe, people are worried that it might cause some sort of chafing against your ankle. Myself, I haven't had that problem on my runs, but also I sometimes wear socks that do go a bit over this ankle area of my shoe, but mainly I also want socks that kind of go over this heel area. Focusing in on this part of the shoe, notice how this part kind of flares inward. One reason why I want to wear socks that kind of just go over this area is that I do have some sort of minor scratching against my Achilles area. Doesn't cause bleeding or anything for me, but just causes some minor discomfort. So just higher socks covers that up and prevents that kind of discomfort for me at least. The tongue of the shoe is all kind of integrated with the rest of the Flyknit material, but it's not cushioned. It stays nice and thin. Haven't had any issues with feeling the shoelaces up against the top of my foot causing discomfort. It's actually quite a very comfortable shoe, but also because it is nice and thin, it keeps the breathability of the shoe really, really nice. Talking about the durability of the shoe. As mentioned, I do have 100 miles on this specific pair of shoes. Exactly, I actually have 108.5 miles on these, with my last run being about 8.33 miles, as well as having done a long run in these at a half marathon distance. Didn't have any problems with the shoe at all at those longer distances. And in fact, because of the rubber on the bottom, the shoe is well covered with rubber, so the React foam is well protected, and the rubber is taking all the abrasion against the road, which is it's a pretty durable piece of rubber. After 100 miles, you do see the rubber wearing out, but it still feels like it's going to last me at least another 200 or 300 more miles on these shoes, which I'm excited about, just because I do really like these pair. As mentioned, I've taken these for long runs as long as 13 miles, but those runs are all slower paced runs. So looking at some of my stats right now, my most recent run was 8.33 miles. That was at a 10-minute pace, which is not fast I've run in. Running in a shoe like the Nike Zoom Fly, I could easily hit a 8.5-minute pace for a similar distance, but with these shoes, I really focus on that slower pace because that's where I feel these shoes excel. Overall, I do feel it is a great shoe. I really enjoy it. Nike has been releasing a lot more color schemes for the shoe itself, and it's becoming super tempting to get another pair. But seeing how these shoes are holding up, I don't really need one yet. Just because these shoes are nowhere near retirement yet, and I've got a stockpile of shoes already building up. A new pair of Pegasus 36 sitting in my garage, Adidas Ultra Boost, which are still relatively new at about 25 miles. So I have a lot of shoes in rotation, and I don't really need to add another pair. But as I see more sales of these shoes come out, hopefully later this year, I'm probably going to stock up on these just because these are a pair that I really just enjoy, and would be sad for them to discontinue and make it hard for me to get new pairs when I actually do need them. But all in all, it's a good shoe. Highly recommend them. If you are a fan of Nike's React foam, highly recommend you do check these out. They are heavier, so if you do prefer doing speed work, I would probably stay away from these, but it is still good to have in your line of shoe rotations because anytime you're doing speed work, you should mix in a good amount of recovery and slower runs to just prevent injury. Just good practice as you train up for any kind of race you're doing. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode of shoe reviews, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as I launch more content about shoes, about my training, and anything running related on this channel that I do have. Any feedback you have is welcome, but all in all, thanks for watching.